Hey, everybody, it's your buddy Pete from the Break It Down show. I thought I would check in. Artie is here. He's working on some technology because it's always the technology. We're always trying to solve these problems. And I guess the main thing is as the world gets more connected, there are more and more things that are we're not even streaming. See, here you go. Now StreamYard can't stream to Facebook. So yeah, you know, the issue may be on Facebook saying it's always somebody else's fault. I love it. I love it. It's yeah. What do? You push the buttons and you hope that it works. Artie should be here in a moment. We've already talked. He was already in the studio, but I made him go out. We're trying to fix a camera thing for him, and so on we go. Anyhow, I thought I would check in. Hey, this is Pete from the Break It Down show. We do 3 to 5 live episodes a week. We've got 5 shows this week. If you can believe that. There's all kinds of great things. We had Tim Kennedy on last week. And there's already looking great. Look at this guy.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm sorry, my phone is not cooperating.
That's all right. That's all right. Why don't we just do this? I'm going to point at you, and you're going to say this is Artie Hoffman, and you're watching the Break It Down show. You ready? Bam.
This is Artie Hoffman, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
Hey, so we're connected by a buddy named Steve that we both mutually know, and I thought we would chat a little bit about Steve for a moment. How do you know Steve, and how long have you known him?
Oh, I've probably known Steve now for probably about, I don't know, 4 years maybe, give or take. Mm-hmm. And I met him through a mutual friend who's no longer my friend. And things happened. So, but I'm not going to put dirty laundry out there. Why not? But yeah, so anyway, so I met him through a mutual friend. And that's how Steve and I joined up as a force. So it was all good ever since him and I met. He's been we've been helping each other out ever since.
I love it. Yeah, likewise. The thing about what we do now, so you've been on already a lot of radio, right?
Yes.
But I would say, I think this is fair to say, most of the attention is no longer on radio. Radio is still a viable platform, but it is not what it was, say, 20 years ago when you had, I think even then you still had Howard Stern on terrestrial radio. And then things started changing between satellite radio, and then podcasts came out, and it's all different now.
It's night and day. Yeah, it literally is. It's night and day. A lot more platforms, a lot more, it's just one of many. It's not the thing, it's still pretty popular. Right. I mean, at least in New Jersey it is, but yeah, but there's just so many other avenues, even with Cyrus Radio, and you have so many more different options. So
in where I'm from, up in the Bay Area in San Francisco, our main news channel that had been around for 80 years, the other day, lights out. And they went
really?
And they went to pre-programmed, like here are songs that people like kind of programming, and maybe they'll put something else on there. But you can literally run a radio station with no DJs and simply just, pick the top 100 songs ever and just rotate them. And just like, that's our format, and then go sell ads for it. And the reality is someone's listening to that.
Oh yeah, well, there's somebody, there's something for everybody, no matter what it is. So it's like there's a topic, there's a format, there's a something for everybody. It just takes a little searching, but you'll find whatever it is that you want to look at. I mean, it could go from one extreme to the other, to classic to raunchy. It could, whatever you're looking for.
Right.
My choice. Hey, listen, my choice of music is 70s. I like the classic rock stations.
Right. And they do well. And when people talk about music, that's where they love to stick. Like the late 60s and the 70s grabbed a lot of attention. And it's generational for sure. But if you say, who's the greatest guitarist ever, you're not going to say someone from today. You probably couldn't name someone who started in the 2015s or later who was a great guitarist. Not that they don't exist, but we want to talk about Jimmy Page.
Or Santana.
Yeah, or Santana. Yeah, or any number of people, right?
Yeah. Right. It goes on and on and on.
Let's Absolutely. Talk. So you're a comedian, and that's your own made-up word. I love it. Talk about so look, you build an act, right? Whatever it is, and that can be like programming computers, whatever your act is going to be. And then you put a little bit of this in there, a little bit of that. You take a little bit of this out. How did you get to comedium?
It came through very naturally. Well, when I, when there was a time when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I wanted to become a stand-up comic. So I tried it for a few years. And I wasn't that great at it, to be honest with you. I was okay. I mean, I had some good nights and I had, my share of bad nights. And it wasn't until I started getting more into my spirituality that, because I have, it's within the family. We have this family shtick, it's like, not just my immediate family, but my uncles and everybody. They're all funny. And so, and I was always known as a class clown. And I never really knew that until my high school reunions, that people say, oh my God, Artie was so funny. He was such a class clown. I didn't know, I would joke around with people, but I wouldn't call myself necessarily a class clown. And so, to be a stand-up comic, that's a totally different energy than just being a comedian, say on a sitcom, when people are funny on sitcoms, and to be a stand-up, it's a totally different dynamic. So when I started to talk about spirituality in front of a live audience, I would remember a lot of funny stories, or I'm pretty good with improv when it comes to, when I see somebody or something happening in the moment, to make a quick joke about it. So it just naturally went hand in hand that when I started talking about spirituality, I would do it with a sense of humor. And that's kind of what I'm known as. I'm known as the guy who understands and the guy who's pretty funny. And, it was probably say that on my tombstone. He was a pretty funny guy.
He was a pretty funny guy. What kind of comedian are you? Like, are you a joke setup punchline guy? Are you a
Both?
Twist of reality?
Both. Everything. There's no, I don't have a particular style. I have, it's like, situational comedy, or, it's like I'm the type of person, even when I was in class, when I went to school, there was always somebody doing something stupid or something was being said, and I always added to it. Or when a friend of mine, I have friends, and they'd be talking and talking and talking to me in conversation. And I would just add like a little bit to what they're saying, a little twist to what they're saying. And like after the conversation was over, they go, "Oh my God, Art, you're so funny." I go, "Yeah, but you did 80% of the talking," literally. And all I did was just add my little blurbs here and there. So it's more or less situational, if you want to say situational comedy, than just. And I know a lot of jokes. Don't get me wrong. I know jokes that are pretty damn funny. Or at least I think, but I tend to make people, laugh when I do it. Like one of the jokes that I use, when I do live audiences, when I'm performing in front of a live audience, I usually open up with, being that I'm a medium, talking to dead people and stuff. You know that little boy in The Sixth Sense who says, "I see dead people." Do you remember that kid? Yeah. I see dead people.
Yeah.
If that little kid was in an Italian family, kid, you saw nothing, you saw nobody. You get out of here. You saw no dead people. You get out of here.
When so have you seen Nightmare Alley, the movie with Bradley Cooper, where he learns like the carnival aspect of fortune telling?
No, I never saw that. Sounds really interesting though.
It is interesting, and it's got this whole twist and turn and all these kind of things.
Wait, what's the name of it?
It's called Nightmare Alley, and it's a new movie for him. And it's great. It's dark. It's like a film noir kind of thing, and he he works on a carnival. He becomes a carny, right? And learns the parlor aspect of being a medium, right? And then he just develops the intuition to be able to read people, right? And this is just me talking about Bradley's movie and everything. So, but there's always that thing where like you can tie into something, even if you don't by tying into someone else, right? And so he sort of develops his power, or he falls in love with his skill and thinks it's a power, and it's what he was warned about the whole movie, and then it careens out of control, and it's pretty crazy.
Wow. I'm going to have to see that one.
I think it's great. I think it's a really fun movie. Wait, okay, so let's go back to your medium thing, because the comedian thing, I get class clown. You can be funny. You're like, I'm not funny. I'm just talking, and then riffing off of someone else's, straight man or whatever they're doing. And then you're like, oh, this is funny. Like I can do a turn of phrase here or whatever it is. The medium thing is different.
So you're asking what's a medium?
No, just like, how do you get into that? Like, I understand, like, okay, it's a viable career to be a comedian and go do stand up and that kind of thing, right? But you're have the medium aspect of it, and so you had to discover that. I'm looking for your discovery story on that side.
Well, when I first learned when I was 27 years old, I got a postcard in the mail, and it said, "How would you like to develop your psychic ability and intuitiveness?" It was in my junk mail. I got a postcard and it said, "How would you like to develop your psychic ability and intuitiveness? Come to the Edgar Casey Foundation for this one weekend seminar in Virginia Beach." And I said to my wife, who was my wife at the time, I said, "Oh, wow, I didn't know you could learn how to do this. I thought either you had it or you didn't."
Yeah.
And so I asked my wife, I said, "You want to come with me to this?" I said, "It looks pretty interesting." She says, "Nah, I don't give a crap about that." She goes, "You can go if you want. I don't want to do it." So I went just out of curiosity, and they taught you how to open up your heart and mind to be 100% unconditional with your thoughts. And they got you in this beautiful zone, this Zen, if you will, with the music and what they were saying about life and about spiritual. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And so they broke us up into groups, into little groups. And they said, whatever you get from the other person, just share it. No matter what picture you get, no matter what thought you get, don't judge it, just share it. And most people were telling me that I was pretty accurate with my premonitions or my thoughts about them. So I was like kind of blown away. So I was doing psychic stuff at first for a while. And so when I first started doing psychic stuff, if I was reading you, I couldn't just look at you or be with you and just say, "Oh, let me see if I can read you." And I couldn't do it. But if you gave me a picture of yourself, when I look in the eyes of the picture, I'm able to tell people about themselves. So anyway, so I was doing this for one person, and I was giving them a psychic reading. And she said to me, she says, "Art, can you read dead people?" I go, "Dead people?" I said, "I never even thought of the concept of talking to dead people. They're dead. What are you talking about, reading dead people?" Now, in reality, no one's really dead. Your loved ones who passed away, they're not dead. They're still alive as much as you and I. They're just in a different dimension. Their body died, but not them per se, because your soul is using your body to express itself. So anyway, when she said to me, "Can you talk to dead people?" that kind of floored me, that question. So I said, "I don't know." I said, "I never tried it." She goes, "Would you mind if you took a look at a picture of my grandma?" I said, "Sure." So I looked at the picture of her grandma. Boom, 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 boom. I told her 12 things right in a row, and she could relate to 9 out of 12 right away. And I said, "Wow, I guess I can talk to dead people. I never knew that." So it wasn't until that moment. And so then I started advertising to everybody that I could talk to dead people. And then I became pretty good at it. And I just did 2 readings today that had to do with talking with people who've passed away, and their personalities and details came through very strongly.
When you try to connect with someone who's passed, what do you think you're connecting to? Like, you're opening your heart and your mind, but as far as we know, that they're not here, right? Like my brother passed away almost exactly a year ago today, and it was on Friday was a year ago. He's cremated, and other than his stuff in the garage, like, he's gone.
Well, his body's gone. He's not gone.
Okay.
When you see that, I keep on seeing 2 fingers.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what he means by 2 fingers, whether if he was like, "Hey, peace, brother," or was it the Pulp Fiction thing, doing the 2-finger dance, or
Yeah.
But there's something with 2 fingers. When you mention your brother, I just saw something with 2 fingers.
Yeah. He's
I don't
probably
know.
punched me in the mouth in about 2 seconds. Probably what it is. I don't know. But yeah, so what are you connecting to? Like, how do you, or can you even describe it? Is it like a dream? Like, when you try to explain a dream and it's just so hard, like, none of this is real, but it did this, and you can kind of explain your version of what you experienced. How do you explain what it is that you do when you open your heart and your mind?
Well, I'm opening up myself. People who do what I do, I open myself up to the spiritual world. So I'll give you an example. The best way to describe it, like when you drive, when you're in a car, but you're not driving, you're the passenger, you're the
Yeah.
front passenger, and you don't have to pay attention to the road. You're just the passenger. And so you're just looking out the window and you're just gazing. You're going for a long drive, you're just gazing. You're not really, you're looking at it, but you're not looking at anything. You're not really concentrating. You're letting your mind just drift and just be open to whatever, because you're not really thinking. So I've learned to train my mind to get in that state of mind of no thinking, and to get in that gaze state of mind. And when I'm in that gaze state of mind, the spiritual world knows that I want to connect to them. And so they're throwing me thoughts and images. But I still see number two that has to do with your brother. Now, is it something with February or the 22nd? Was a birthday or anniversary?
No, no, I don't know. I don't know what two would be. I mean, I'll keep it in my mind and see if I come up with something, but I don't
And
have
I'm not
it.
trying to reach or whatnot, but
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah, it doesn't strike a chord with me, but give me some time and maybe I'll come up with something. I'm curious also. When you do things like, okay, I see the number two. Maybe there's nothing there. Maybe you've got to get tuned in or something. Um, and to be honest, I probably lean more towards skeptic. But my last girlfriend, my previous girlfriend from 10 years ago, before she had met me, she had gone to a medium because her husband had died. She was all out of sorts and she was trying to make sense of her life. And so the lady started kind of free writing. And among the things she wrote on, this is Rachel's page, was like soldier, which I was a soldier, Pete, which is my name. And she didn't know me. She had no reason to know me. She didn't know of me. But these things came out through so these things, and then it turned out here I hop into her life a fairly short amount of time later, and so there's something there, right? Like where she was able to lock on to something, and to pull a name out of thin air is just
yeah. Well,
pretty.
there's different techniques to do what we do. That's known as scrying.
Mm-hmm.
It's called scrying. So if you're just writing, or it's automatic writing.
Right.
So if you just take your finger, or you take a stick or an object and you just put it in a sand, and you're just swirling the sand a figure eight, or if you do it with water, that's how Nostradamus predicted the future. He
Yeah.
would just look at water, or he would scry in water, in a bowl of water, and he
Yeah.
would just look at it, and his thoughts would just go into Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds mode. So everybody has their technique on how to get there. There's no like one set thing. You do this, and that happens. There are certain people who are more advanced than others to be able to get there, or to have that strong connection. But I'm still seeing two very strong. It's like, it's almost like the Twin Towers, or it's looking at two tall trees next to each other. But
Yeah.
there's something connected with that. I don't know what it is, though.
Yeah. I don't either. I really don't. I don't know what it is. And gosh, I wish I could figure it out. Because if I could talk to my brother, heck, I want to. And if he's sending me the message too, then I want to understand, what he's up to.
There's a connection with somebody by the name of Brian or Ryan, also, that's connected around him.
Yeah, I don't know. That's hard. It's hard. I know a lot of people.
Now, a lot of times, when people, like when this lady was saying all these things to your girlfriend back then, she couldn't relate to any of it, just like you can't relate to what I'm saying right now. But I will tell you this, it will totally make sense. You might be bumping into a Brian or a Ryan in a couple of days, and I'll have the number 2 right on his shirt. It could be a football jersey or something.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely seeing the number 2 or 22 connected with
I'm
with
into
this.
it. Right.
And you'll understand it a little later.
Yeah. My buddy Brian, he's born on Groundhog's Day. That's February 2nd. But I don't know how that would.
There you go.
Yeah.
Brian, number 222.
Brian, number 22.
There you go. The 2s and the 22s.
How was the market affect whether you're a comedian, or do you blend the two? Like, do you blend the medium and the comedy aspect? Like,
It's not even a thought. There's no like, I am like Teresa Caputo and Billy Crystal all wrapped up in one. I come as a package deal with that. the thing about being an entertainer, see, I went more towards entertainment rather than being a teacher. I could be a teacher too. And I have taught people to do what I do as far as a psychic or a medium. And I, I'd rather be the entertainer because that's just naturally who I am, you know. Not that I just like a captive audience, but you know, the people have to come and want to see me. It's not like I go into an audience and I try to gain their acceptance or attention. There's no trying at all. It's like, if you're going to be with me, you're with me because you want to be with me. Not that I'm trying to be funny. I don't try to be funny. It's
Right.
just something that naturally comes. And as I'm going through an audience, you know, and funny stories will come about. So I'm telling somebody something and it will trigger off a memory of a funny story. And I'll tell a funny story based on just what I said to this person. Or a joke will come about, or I'll make fun of just what happened in the moment. Now, am I always just joking around? No, because there are times where it's very serious when you're connecting to somebody's intimate loved one. You know, it's very sentimental. Like I just did a live show yesterday for a group of women. And, you know, people, when I was talking to their relatives who passed away, they could relate to everything I was saying. And the tears were flowing. And, but then with other people, it was more playing around, joking around. It wasn't as serious. So it's about knowing how to read the vibes. But here's something funny. I'll tell you something that I did. I do quite a lot of funny little things in the moment, but this is something you'll appreciate. So here I am. I'm doing what's known as, I call them Artie parties. You know, people hire me. I go to their house and I read for their friends and family. So sometimes it's in a group where everyone's in the same room. And then a lot of the parties, most of the parties, they're individual readings where everyone will congregate in the TV room or the kitchen while I read for somebody in the bedroom or in a finished basement or something. So anyway, so a lady goes downstairs. I was in a finished basement. The lady goes downstairs. She had a very playful personality right from the get-go. So you have to know that before I tell you what I tell you, because I wouldn't just say this to somebody who is like, you know, type A personality and serious and stuff like that. But she had a very playful, flirtatious personality. So she goes, all right, Archie sits right in front of me. And she goes, she's sitting just like the way I'm sitting right now. And she goes, so what do you want for me to do? How does this work? And I said to her, well, at that time, I said to her, I said, well, let me have your keys or a piece of your jewelry. I said, I'll hold on to it and I'll start reading it and I'll start getting information. So she said, well, I don't wear any jewelry. You see, I have no jewelry and I didn't drive here, so I don't have my keys on me. So what do you suggest now? And I said, well, take off your shirt and I'll read Braille. You know, and so she thought that was funny, and I could joke around like that because of her personality, and it just came to me like that, you know.
Yeah. What are the drawbacks of being a medium?
What are the drawbacks of being a medium? That's an interesting question. I feel like if you asked different mediums that question, you'd probably get, if you asked 10 of them, you might get 10 different answers. What's the drawback? I don't know any drawbacks, to be honest with you, about being a medium. Oh, I know. When you're a medium, for me, I ask for protection so they don't bother me. But when there are people who are on 24/7, I'm not on 24/7. My antennas are off all the time. They're only on when I want to connect. Then they're on. But I have friends, they are on 24/7. And when the spiritual world knows that you are on, they will bombard you when you're trying to sleep or when you're out in public, or you'll see somebody's dead loved one standing right next to somebody in the grocery store or in the mall. Yeah. See, for me, it's not like that. I'm like everybody else, just walking around. But if you want to know exactly what your question is to me, see the movie Ghost Town. It's actually a comedy. It's not a thriller. It's not scary. It's a really cute, adorable, touching movie, and it's called Ghost Town. And it's about a guy who doesn't even realize he has a gift. He has the most dry sense of boring sense of humor you ever met in your life, but yet he's so funny at it. He's a dentist, and spirits draw them, and he starts talking to them, but he thinks they're alive, not realizing that they're dead, not realizing that nobody else could see him but him. And so the whole movie is like that, and he's like going crazy, but it's a really cute movie, and it's called Ghost Town.
Check it out, Ghost Town. Everybody, check out Ghost Town to get an idea.
Yeah, you'll love it. You'll absolutely love it.
My buddy, so my friend is Jay Moore, and for a while I was helping him with this podcast, and he had Tyler Henry on the show. And for those that know Tyler's work, he is the Hollywood medium. And so he came into the Westwood One studios, and this kid, he's like, he's so young. He seemed to almost be racked by anxiety, but he has this gift to connect to people. And so I always thought, like, is it worth it to be him? Of course, he's playing the Grove down the street. He's doing theater shows, right? And so he does have a living from doing this, but it did, from my limited interaction with him, it did seem to extract quite a cost from him. And his mom had to be around him because she helps manage his stuff. But it seemed like even day-to-day things for him would be hard.
See, with somebody like that, there are people where when you're also a medium, if you don't know how to control it, it could drain the living hell out of you. It could emotionally, physically drain the hell out of you. See, I'm capable of reading about 20, 25 people in one shot, literally one after another. Whereas most mediums but I'm a medium and a psychic, so I switch on and off. They're two different energies. So I could switch back and forth. But when you're just an all-out medium and you're connecting to the spiritual world, it draws a lot of energy out of you, and it could tire you out, very much so. Or, you need to really eat properly so that your energy is there to connect to the other side. So the reason why we're called a medium is because the spiritual world comes halfway down and we go halfway up, and we meet in the middle. So that's why we're considered mediums.
One of the things I'm always curious about is when you look like generationally back, right? You have 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, and all of a sudden you're not back that far in time, but there's 1,000 people, and so how do you sort that out? Or is there a limit to how far back you can go? How does that even work? Is that not the right question to ask about that? Like, if I wanted to connect to my Swedish great-great-grandfather who decided to come here, is that possible? Can you target it like that?
Yeah, what I tell people is, if you want, when I do private sessions or I do parties, I said, bring a picture of that person. Mm-hmm. When I, bring a picture of the person, it doesn't have to be a recent picture. Obviously, it's back in the dated years. But if you have a picture of them or an object of theirs, I could connect to their personality or their energy. And when I look into their eyes, they start sending me messages. When I do live shows, say, I have a FaceTime live show that I do every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And people say, and I tell them, I said, you need to give me the name and the relationship. And unfortunately, if it's a child, I want to know how old they were. So when I have a lot of energy hitting me on the camera with all these people with different questions, I have to zero in on the specific dynamic of that personality for me to read them. I could just do it also randomly, and I don't know who the hell's coming through, but it's usually, no more further back than a grandparent, once in a blue moon, a great-grandparent. But usually it's parents or grandparents are the most of the ones, and unfortunately, like yourself, it's brothers or children or stuff like that. Yeah. But, their soul and spirit pulls through. But just because you want to talk to them doesn't mean that they're going to be accessible for us to talk to them. Just because you knock on somebody's door, it doesn't mean that they're going to be home.
Right. And is the energy available, or like does at some point it just become part of something else? Like I couldn't tell you and there certainly wouldn't be pictures of people from my family that we know their name. We know they signed an entry book to go somewhere. So they existed at one point in time, but it's just it's a picture of a signature in a book from 300 years ago. Can you even contact that person? And what about the person 300 years before that who didn't even do that sort of thing? Or
you can. There's no time limit. Time and space doesn't exist on the other side in the spiritual world. When you pass away, you're going to the same place as you were before you were born. You're in the spiritual world, and time and space doesn't exist at all. 1 second is equivalent to 1,000 years in the spiritual world. And so that's why people say, well, how can you predict the future or whatnot? Because in the spiritual world, it's already happened or happening.
Mm.
you know, on the most part. So the people who are the angels who I'm connecting to on the other side, whether it be your loved one, whether it be an angel, whether it be my spirit guides, but they already know what's going on the other side. You know, there are times where, you know, I'll bring my mother's picture with me when I'm doing readings. And even though I'm reading you, I'm reading somebody else, when I look at my mother's picture, I'll say, Ma, what's going on with this person? And she'll, even though you never met my mother, she's in the spiritual world. She knows all about you. Everybody knows everybody's business on the other side. There are no secrets.
Love it. I love it. What does it work for paintings or and like
Absolutely, 100%.
okay. How does that energy transmit? I mean, like and I'm thinking about like Jesus, right? There's all these paintings of Jesus for people that never actually saw him. We don't know what Jesus looked like, right? We just get these interpretations of it. How does that, do you think, how does that come through and you communicate with this? And maybe Jesus is like a super spirit or something. I don't know. I'm answering my own question. I don't know why. I should let you do it.
No, well, you answered it pretty well. You know, he's the superstar that, you know, one of many spirits at that level, you know, to be able to project his love simultaneously. You know, that's proof right there. Here you have 1,000,001 churches in this world.
Yeah.
And here everybody has the cross or the picture of Jesus in every single church or whatever, mosque or whatever. And they feel his energy in every single one at the exact same time on the exact same day. How is that possible? Because time and space does not exist on the other side. Because you're able to multiplicity yourself to be at different places at the same time. So if you're in one place, your relatives in, say, New Jersey, another relatives in Arizona, another one's in Dubai, yeah. Your relative on the other side could be with all of you simultaneously. Because time and space doesn't exist on the other side. So it's very doable.
It's the other thing about this whole exponential expansion of your ancestors, it really means that we're all connected, right? Like
100%.
Yeah. I mean, anything to the power of 10, you know, it's a big number. And so you go back 10 generations, which for humankind is not that far back. You know, all of a sudden you're out of a lot of people. I don't know what the 4 times 10 is, but anyhow, it's a big number of people, and you can't have that many relations and not be, you and I are related somewhere. You know, we just have to find that link, and maybe we're distant cousins, still cousins.
I thought you looked familiar.
You know what I found out? This is a funny thing. Let me ask you about this. In my ancestry, one of my maternal grandfathers was from, you know, and it's so hard because the war wiped out a lot of things, but let's just say Latvia. He's from Latvia and like the Eastern European Jewish, all the way out to however far that goes, out into Asia, right? And so by some people's definition, because it's on my mom's side, I would be Jewish, like 10%. But I wasn't raised Jewish. My mom wasn't Jewish. You know, he was the only guy that the faith kind of died with him. And so you have these things where I always wonder, like, what are we, right? Like people will try to tell you you're something. And then you're like, hey, look at this. And it's a reality. My brother's wife is from Mexico. And so a lot of my family are Mexicans who now live in America, whether they're citizens or not. So a lot of my family is Mexican. A lot of my family is Mormon. My dad's last wife was a lovely black lady named Rita. And so you have all these things and you look around, you're like, we are all the same people, right? Like, so maybe I'm not technically or, you know, actually Jewish, but maybe technically I am. Who knows? Right?
Hold on. I want to change something, what you said. Yeah. So are we all people? Are we all people? Yes. Are we all connected to the same energy? Yes. But are we all uniquely different? The answer is yes. And what I mean by that is that, all right, so if you go outside your studio right now, go outside your place, you'll probably look at 20 different cars. Each car, I assume, has 4 wheels, a steering wheel, a trunk, a transmission, an engine. They all have it. Right. But yet they're all uniquely different in their style and in their color or whatever. You have different types of styles of, you know, and it's the same thing with people. People are people, but yet we're all uniquely different, and we all uniquely think differently, and we all act differently, and it just all depends. It's all circumstantial. It's like you could have, like, say, 5 or 10 or 12 brothers and sisters from the exact same mother and father, but yet they'll all have their own different personalities, and they'll all have their different perceptions of their own family. You'll get a totally different perception, from each individual, based on whether they're the youngest, the middle child, the oldest. Everyone has their different perception of what is. Same thing with God, same thing with religion or spirituality.
I'm curious, do you ever watch anybody else do the medium or psychic thing?
Yeah.
And you look, there are phonies that do this stuff, right? They figure out.
Absolutely. Just like there are phony lawyers and phony doctors.
Yeah. And there's bullshit interviewers too, like,
yeah, there you go. But you're a good bullshitter.
Hey, that's perfect. That's what I need. But yeah, so what does that look like to you? And then are you being unfair? You're like, maybe the guy's having an off night. Like, what does that look like, pro to pro?
Now, when I look at somebody, I really try very hard not to be judgmental. When as a psychic and a medium, when I see somebody else do it, I pay attention to their style more than their information. I'm impressed with people who are very accurate, and I feel sorry for people who might not be as accurate. I show emotional support or compassion because I do want them to do good or to pull through. I'm not a competitive person in this world. When you're doing stuff like what I do spiritually, it's not a competition. So it's not like I'm judging others, but when I see performers, it's like I really pay attention to their style, how they relate to the audience, what the audience likes or dislikes. And, everybody has their own spiel or shtick. And I feel very comfortable in front of an audience. And the reason why I could say that, the difference between being a comedian when I try to be a comic and being a spiritualist and being a funny spiritualist is that when I was a comic, it was all about me. And with most comics, it's all about them. They're thinking, well, is this joke funny? Or did I pull this off? Or do I look good? Or did they think I was, did I think I was funny? Whatever. It's all about you as a comic. It's very self-centered. When I'm doing spiritual work, when I am talking to an audience, it's not about me at all. It's like, even when I'm talking to you right now, it's not about me. I'm sharing information to the public, to you and to the public, so that they could appreciate life from a spiritual point of view. And then I happen to throw a little comedy shtick about it so I could be funny with it, because I'm not trying to be funny for me. It's just the moment calls for a funny moment. It's really good. But when you can get yourself out of the equation, it's not about you. It's about the audience. It's about you relaying information. All pressure is off, and it's very easy to talk to an audience, no matter how big the audience is. But when you're nervous talking in front of a crowd, that means your ego's getting in the way, because you're worried about what people think of you, or what you're being said, or will I say the right thing? Am I saying it the right way? No. I didn't prepare for this show to do your show or any other radio show. I never know what's going to be said in the moment. I'm just sharing information of what I know within my heart, within my soul, and within my past experiences that I feel the audience would appreciate. So, and it's not about me. It's about giving to the audience or giving to you.
This is fantastic. I mean, I think we've hit a new gear here with the episode. A lot of the audience knows this, but if you're new, hey, this is the Break It Down Show. Thanks for listening. Make sure you guys subscribe and support the show. All right. But the thing that you probably don't know about me is that I was a combat spy. So I would go out and I would talk to people, and people often say, how do you do it? And I've got my things that I say and I teach, but these are my methods, right? I have to believe in what I'm doing. I have to believe in the questions I'm asking. If I'm asking somebody else's questions or trying to find something out, like, no one can tell me how to do my part of it, right? I've got to be comfortable so that I'm authentic with who I am. So I don't lie to people for the most part. I may not tell them everything, but like, I'll tell them my name. I'll tell them I'm from California. And a lot of my peers don't do that. They hide everything. And I don't believe you can share something if it's going to be a one-way thing, right? You have to build this trust. And so I think we're peers in this, where my ability to be likable in intense situations, be able to tell a joke, be comfortable with that because I'm comfortable with who I am and what I'm doing. It enables me to get to things with the person where they're going to tell me things they might not otherwise tell me. And a lot of my friends, like, you're just so easy to talk to. And I'm like, well, I listen, I make you comfortable, not on purpose, but it's sort of a craft that I've developed. And it's why I'm a pretty good interviewer is I don't listen to you. I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm listening for certain things. And then those things, I pull the lever and then we work from there to see what is behind that door or that whatever that lever opens. I'm going to work with that then. And now we're in a new room. And usually, and if I'm professional in doing this to find something specific out, that lever opens a door and then I'm looking for the next door and then I'm looking for depth and I'm going down and then I'm exploring now that I found this unlockable room and I've unlocked it. Does that at all make sense to you?
Oh yeah, of course. Everything is, I understand everything. I listen to you.
Yeah. But that listening for things though, right? Like there's cues in what the person says to you. And what I'm looking for if I'm in a combat zone is like they have a surface level of truth. I'm going to listen for that. And be like, oh, wait, hold on. Let me ask a detailed question about this. And now I got them thinking, and then I ask their opinion about that and we develop that information. The next thing you know, we're in this new area of knowledge. But I have to earn that by listening, by interacting, by being likable, by having some experience at these things and being comfortable with the unknown and the danger that's all around me.
It's like being a good salesperson. Before you sell your product or service, the people have to like you first before they hire you for your services or your product. Unless if you're in dire straits and, plumbing and you don't care who's there. I just need my plumbing to be fixed or electrical to be fixed to put the heat on. You don't care who it is, as long as you know how to do it. Right. But, when you're doing, a lot of salesmanship, it's very important to sell yourself first. So it was very funny, when I first started, besides doing this full time, I also own a window washing, power washing business. You'll like this one. It's called Peeping Tom's Window Cleaning.
I like it.
So when I first started my business as a house cleaner, actually, before I got into window cleaning, one of my friends, a client who became a friend, but one of my clients, he looks, sounds, and acts just like Elton John. He doesn't have the talent of Elton John, but he sounded and looked just like Elton John to me. And so he said to me, he goes, Artie, he was a very successful businessman. And he said to me, he says, if you're selling a product or service, he said, you need to sell yourself first before you sell your product. So I went home and I told my wife that. And I said to her exactly what he just said. I said, I made so much money selling myself today. I never got to the product. I never got to my service. I sold so much of myself.
I love it. I wanted to go back to your plumbing analogy, if you don't mind. The thing about plumbing, right? Because we need a plumber right now too.
I knew that. No, I'm only kidding.
I knew that. Yeah. I may try to fix it's the dishwasher, right? I may try to fix this myself. It's a simple module. You put it in place and then you do it. And then you can bring a plumber in, but gosh, do you trust the plumber, right? And will they do a good job or will they do a good enough job? Quite honestly, right? Like we have an old house. And so the drain from the house to the street gets backed up. Everything that comes out of the house goes through there. And so we want to fix that, right? And we're like $500. Okay, great. Just make all of that stuff go away, And so you're just happy with the basic thing and charging a lot of money for it. But it doesn't strike me that mediums get to charge plumber rates. And I'm not saying you don't make as much of a plumber, but like when a medium shows up, there's an expectation that you're going to deliver something that's higher than just dig out my pipe or replace this simple module or my friend swapped out our garbage disposal, right? That's simple work. You can watch a YouTube video and do it yourself, but you don't want to because they're so good at it. They'll be in and out in 30 minutes and you'll be wrestling the sink for 5 hours. But we don't like to pay a plumber if I don't know, just plumbers charge a lot. Do mediums get to charge a lot? What are the expectations of you, man, when you show up?
Well, it all depends what the quality is of the medium, of what they feel comfortable with. You find your price point as far as what's a comfortable rate to charge. You know, there are people that will charge $75 an hour. There are people who charge $100 an hour, 150 an hour, 200 an hour, 250 an hour, 500 an hour. I mean, I met a medium one time. Literally, he was like, $1,000 an hour. I believe that's what John Edward charges. And I got news for you. There's no guarantees.
Right.
There's no guarantees, because what you're doing is you're paying for, it's just like when you pay a professional baseball player based on his past history, on his experience and what he's performed before. You're basically paying him for that. But when he goes up to bat for you, doesn't mean he's going to hit a home run for you. You're paying him based on. Now, on the most part, do I pull through for people? Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you do when you get an unsatisfied person? I mean, that for sure happens. What do you do? I mean, obviously there's no refunds, right? You paid me to come here. You paid me to have my expertise.
Pay me for my time. Yeah.
Right. And you might even deliver, but they don't accept it too.
Right. And that's their issue. It's not mine. The bottom line is, I'll give you an example. I was reading for this one young couple. Unfortunately, they had 5 children. All right. They had 5 kids and they had a nanny. And I was and they wanted to connect to their daughter that they lost at birth. And they couldn't get past it. And it was taking them down so bad. I mean, granted, yes, I understand it's a loss, but at the same token, it really took them down, and they were putting more energy into what they lost, not realizing that this beautiful spirit, their child who passed, who didn't make it, is back with the Lord, is back with God, back in heaven, and they weren't accepting the extreme amount of appreciation for their 5 beautiful children. I mean, they loved them and they seemed like good parents and stuff, but it's like, it literally was like putting them way back down. Like, oh my God, they felt like such failures. So when I was connecting for them, I was able to tell them all the names of their kids and the name of the nanny. And I was explaining to them the circumstances of the child, but I couldn't get the child's name. And I gave them all these circumstances that was going on. It was true. And they were agreeing. And I told them all the names of their kids and the nanny. And they walked away feeling very disappointed because I couldn't come up with the name of the child that passed away. So it's like, it's not my issue. It's theirs, because anything shy of them walking through the door saying, hey, I'm back from the dead, it's not going to make them happy. So they come from a lack of appreciation. And it is what it is. I had a lady one time, I just told this story the other day. When I first started doing readings, I wanted to make sure that, or I was trying to make everybody happy. And I wanted to let the public know that I wasn't doing what I was doing just for the sake of money. I really wanted to help people, but yet I was still charging at that time only, $45 for a half hour, which my rates are more than that. But I was charging only $45 for a half hour for a medium, which is like really cheap. So in my ad, it said, if I don't pull through, no charge. So an older woman comes to my place and she wanted to connect to her best friend. So I was giving her names. I was giving her specific dates. I was talking about the rosary beads that she got. And I was talking about situations that were going on in life. And she said no to just about everything. And I was like befuddled because the images were very strong in my mind. And the dates and the circumstances were very strong in my mind. And so I said to her, I said, well, I'm sorry I couldn't connect. She goes, yeah, I'm sorry too. But, I'm not, I feel like you're still very talented. It just wasn't the time, I guess. But, thank you very much. 1 week later, I got a check from that lady in the mail. And she said to me, she wrote me a note. She goes, Artie, I wanted you to connect to my best friend. And that's what I was hoping for. And you mentioned something about the rosary beads, the color of the rosary beads. She says, that wasn't my best friend. That was my mother. And you told me the name, and that was my mother. And you told me the date, and the date of her birth was my mother. And all I was fixated on was my best friend. And the circumstances that you mentioned all had to do with my mother. My mother pulled through, but not my best friend. But I felt that you deserved it because you did connect. You did do your job and you connected, but you have no control of who pulls through. And I thought that was really sweet of her to still send me a check, because most people wouldn't, but this lady did, and she gave me credit when credit was due.
Yeah, man, I dig that. Yeah, and you're right. There's a little bit of a delay, right? Like maybe, like you said, maybe tomorrow the two and the Ryan Brian thing will come through for me in a bit.
Well, didn't you just say, was that true that your friend Brian? Do you have
Oh
a
yeah,
friend?
that has nothing to do with my brother, but I mean, like,
No. But your brother was mentioning to me the bout with Brian, and he was the one that was giving me that information about your friend.
Yeah.
And it's either your brother or your friend who was born on February 2nd, you said?
Yep.
Yeah. And so he was very methodical. So I feel like one of them is extremely analytical and very methodical, whether it be your brother or your friend.
Yeah.
And there were things that they were missing in the puzzle because they had a hard time seeing things out of the box. They could only see things with tunnel vision rather than being more open-minded. And that was a part of one of their personalities, whether your brother's talking about Brian or that's your brother's personality.
Yeah, fair enough. With the when we connect to these spirits that we want to engage with, you want there to, like, apparently I'm connected in some way to Henry VIII, my mom claims, right? Whatever. Everybody's connected to someone royal and all that kind of stuff. But there are people that, if you believe in heaven and hell, there are people that are in hell. Are they accessible? And there are
Hold
people
on 2 seconds.
Huh?
I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna blow you away.
Okay, and then here's the next part of it. Some people had horrible lives, and it seems like even like 150 years ago, it was a whole lot harder to stay alive, a whole lot harder for women to not get raped and beaten up. Like these things, lives are a lot more complex now, but boy, you have a lot more opportunity to enjoy yourself because you're not, doing all the things that you had to do in the 1800s and all of history before that.
You ready?
Yeah.
For a mind blower?
Yeah.
Hell does not physically exist at all.
All right.
It doesn't exist. What hell is an emotional experience.
Okay.
When you're really upset, when you're totally stressed out, when you're going through physical hell or physical, emotional, bad experience, like emotionally, you are just very like upset, angry, pissed, blah, blah, blah. That is a living hell. That's hell. Hell is an emotional experience. Heaven, yes, heaven does exist. Heaven is a place. There is a place in heaven, but hell is an emotional experience. You don't have devils with pitchforks and knives and fire and burning souls in hell and stuff like that. There's reconstruction of souls that have done very poorly or that have done negative acts to help them reconstruct so that they become better at being a good soulful person. But when you are dealing with extremely hairy situations in your life, physically, emotionally, financially, relationship, anything, when you or with tsunamis or whatever, you're dealing with, it's a living hell. It's totally taking you upside down. How you choose to deal with someone or something is what gives you the quality of life. And the secret to the quality of life is your perception. It still is what it is. They are who they are. So you could look at one person and some people will think he's the biggest a-hole on 2 feet. And then you have other people who thinks he is like the most greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
So he is who he is, or she is who she is, or the situation, it is what it is. It only is what it is according to the energy of what you give it.
I love it. The energy and what you give it. Let me ask a bit of a silly question, and maybe this won't go anywhere, but I hope it does. Do you ever watch the show Ghosts?
Shows of Ghost, yes, but the show I saw the movie Ghost.
No, there's a show called Ghost. It's an adaptation from a British show, and basically it's a couple in New York, upstate probably, and the girl inherits her aunt's mansion, and it's haunted throughout the times with all these different people that died there on the grounds of the mansion. And there's certain ghostly rules that they have to follow and everything. But the house is inhabited by multiple ghosts. And so there's an old Viking guy who got killed, and there's an Indian guy, and there's a Victorian age aunt, like one of her ancestors and stuff. But there's all these different people that inhabit this dwelling because that's where they passed away. But if you haven't seen the show, I was going to say, like, what would be your creative consultation to the show? But you have to have seen it, I suppose, to get the premise and everything.
No, I could understand it. I didn't even have to see it. Just last week, I had a friend on my show. His house is 100% haunted. The doors open by itself. He has it all on video, and he's the only one home. He knows when the energy is about, when he feels really weird and he's getting very anxious inside, he knows that weird stuff is about to go on. So he puts on his phone. The door opens and closes by itself. The water faucet turns on by itself. He was downstairs, and from upstairs, his vacuum cleaner came flying down the staircase. And the reason why this started happening is because he was foolish enough, and like a lot of people have, what I'm about to tell you, I've done this, was foolish enough to play around with a Ouija board.
Oh boy!
And if you don't know how to respect the Ouija board, you could attract all kinds of energies, whether it be good, whether it be your loved ones, or whether it be negative spirits. And unfortunately, he attracted a negative spirit, and he never said goodbye when you're playing with a Ouija board. You have to say goodbye, otherwise they're going to hang around, and you're not going to get rid of them. And so he has been on the Ghost Show. His house has been on a show. I don't know if it was the exact same show, but he was on a segment of a ghost show, and they're doing another segment with him in next season. So I had him on my show because it's Halloween. I'm a medium. And he was talking about his stuff, and I was connecting to people's loved ones while we were doing my Facebook Live show. Every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, I do free readings of connecting to people's loved ones or talking about their past, present, and future. It's called Angels and Answers. Artie Hoffman's Angels and Answers. And every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, I do a show for 1 hour for free. Right. And so he was on my show, and it was pretty wild. So, his house was buried on a burial ground from way, way, way back when, also, that he found out. Yeah. And also, it could have been a burial ground, not necessarily the house of just the people who lived there, but I believe it was also the grounds of people that were buried, maybe in that same area. Hmm. But I'd have to go there or see it to feel what was what.
This is a bit of a silly thing, but if I was the CEO of like Milton Bradley or one of those games, I would start a legend like the Ouija board, and I would like do it for Hungry Hungry Hippos, or Parcheesi, and like create like this secondary market where you're like, oh my gosh, you got to be careful, Hungry Hungry Hippos, because and then have a whole thing. And I don't mean to mock anything about it, but what a great idea to take like the Ouija board. You want to sell a Ouija board, tell people they can't have it and it's dangerous, right? And you will absolutely sell boards. And then it turns out it is dangerous. Oh my gosh, all the better,
Yeah, it turned out to be like a Jumanji.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now you got Hungry Hungry Hippos, or that game with Jaws where you pull stuff out of Jaws' mouth and it'll slam shut, or Icebreaker. Any of these games, like, you better be careful, until there's in my hometown. It's an old town in California, and the Zodiac killed people there, and there's a gravity hill. You know what a gravity hill is?
No.
It looks like you're pointed downhill, but you go up the hill.
And okay.
You can paint this whole thing where these kids, they got killed on Lake Herman Road. They were shot by the Zodiac killer, and so you're like, this is where it happened. And then the girl slowly pushes your car up the hill, and you can freak yourself out with this whole thing. So I love stuff like this where, who knows why and who knows what and everything else. Let's not think too hard about it, and let's just, have some fun and accept it. And then all of a sudden, every now and then, I'll be damned. This reality comes out, and you're like, how else can you explain it? And so your buddy's house, all of these things, I think that they're just great. I love that you're doing the free shows weekly. That's on Facebook. Is that right? Or where is that at?
Yeah, it's on my Facebook Live show called Angels and Answers, and Artie Hoffman's Angels and Answers. If you go to my website, artiehoffman.com, you'll see a whole bunch of little videos when I explain about life and life circumstances, and also where I'm performing or, you know, what I'm doing. And I do a Instagram, Artie Hoffman, and a Facebook Live. Every single morning, I started off with an inspirational message. Sometimes I do video, and then other times they're just regular messages. But I start off every morning, and that's for free. But then if people want me, you know, personally, you know, private one-on-one, yes, then I do charge. And when I do parties, I travel to do Artie parties, or I do events or fundraisers. And people also give me away as a gift certificates. So, you know, to help heal people's hearts and to give them answers. And it's really cool. I feel very, very blessed to be put in this position. And I tell everybody, just because I have a gift to do what I do, I'm not better than anybody. I tell everybody, I'm not better than anybody. Maybe my two brothers, but nobody else. I'm not better than anybody.
Look down. Hang on. Let me get the finger. Look down below, right down there. That's the link, artiehoffman.com. And if you go there, bottom of the screen, you'll see the Facebook link. And it's not hard to get around to his stuff. So definitely go check that out. Also, let me put this on the screen real fast here. Look, he writes books. There they are. You can see the link on Amazon.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Angels and Answers, and Have Your Angels Call My Angels.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
This is how you support the guy. Or here's the best thing. Hire him. Hire him to come entertain your friends at a party or whatever it's going to be. Hire the man, and you're going to get entertained. And all I can say is, man, it's fun to talk to folks like you who do something that's so atypical, and yet you seem to love doing it, and you get to bring joy to people's lives. And gosh, what's better than that?
I want to share with you this one story. You know, I've been doing this for 34 years, and I've read for over 30,000 people in my life. And no exaggeration. And I could tell you what my favorite read. Do you want to hear what my favorite read was?
Yeah, of course.
Because I think you're going to appreciate this. So this one fella comes, gives me a call, and he says, Artie, he goes, I was wondering if I could have a reading with you. And he goes, I'd rather it sooner than later. And I said and I could hear it in his voice that he was very depressed and that he was really hurting. And I said, sure. I says, come to my place tomorrow. I said, I'll make time for you. So he came to my place in the middle of the afternoon on a Saturday. And he came in and he sat down, and he, you know, his face was very like, you know. And so, you know, I never know what I told you, I never know what I'm going to say, why I say what I say. But I was explaining to him about the meaning of his life. And I was explaining to him about the meaning of life itself. And I gave him a lot of life answers. You know, it wasn't just so much what I see for him in the future, but I was giving him the value of his life and the value of life itself. And I was helping him change his perception about himself and about life and about the relationships around him. And and his whole demeanor changed by the end of the reading. He lightened up totally. And at the end of the reading, he said to me, he goes, Art, he goes, he gave me a big hug. He goes, you saved my life. He goes, you're a lifesaver. You know, and people say a lot of nice things like that to me. And I said, I'm glad I was able to help you out. He goes, no, you really did save my life. He goes, I wrote a suicide note and I was going to kill myself tomorrow morning. He goes, I have it all planned out. He goes, I don't want to do that anymore. Since I talked to you, you gave me a different light. You gave me a different perception, and now I want to live.
I love it. The lifesaver, the medium, the psychic, the comedian, Artie.
A life coach.
Are you a life coach? Artie Hoffman, man. Thank you so much. Stand by one sec while I wrap this up. Hey, thanks.
You got it. It was a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank